What a morning. Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel. I'm the MC for the afternoon. Thanks for joining us over here, the main stage. Next up, we have an exciting talk by Robert Drost, who is the CEO of the Eigen Foundation. And it is going to be called Meta Settlement, Manifesto for Open Source Builders. Please welcome to the stage, Robert.
Hello everyone. Very happy to be here after lunch. One of the nice times to be here in the day versus right before lunch. Okay, well, I'm very excited to talk about this. Only have about 14 minutes, so let me just jump right into it. So I'm going to cover two main concepts here, which are crypto settlement and verifiable clouds. And the subtitle of the talk is Manifesto for Open Source Builders. So no surprise, what I'm going to go through is some pretty clear reasons why open source builders win in this space. And in general, I give this talk a little bit modified, but to Web 2 people who are working in AI, a lot of them actually always kind of scratch their head, should I be working in Web 3 or not? They hear a lot of token narratives, and a lot of times they're not convinced by that alone, because they have good funding sources and stuff. So this talk kind of motivates some reasons that, in my view, have actually turned out to be a lot more valuable for open source builders. And then for all of us, I think web consumers win in massive ways from this shift. And it's important to say that because it's a very clear roadmap for open source builders that over time, similar to people wanting to use open software and seeing that there's better features that you get out of that community than kind of being stuck in closed environments, things that are built and fully proprietary. I think the web consumers are going to move away, and if there's one thing that we know is that you're building open source, you're going to go to the consumers because you want someone to actually be using your stuff. So one thing that I step back a little bit in this talk is I want to unpack the word settlement. Okay, we're not talking about settling a lawsuit. We're talking about settling transactions on chain. So when you settle transactions on chain, going back to the the goodie and the oldie point, what does a blockchain try to achieve? What are its key values? Permissionless, of course. Anybody should be able to run it. Anybody should be able to post transactions and then have them settle. That's sort of the unstoppable aspect of blockchains. Liveness, meaning that nobody can basically halt it from running. Eventually, even if it's slowed down, you're going to be able to build up to a finality consensus, on Ethereum, on proof of stake chains, and of course, even on proof of work chains. Eventually, you probabilistically get there. But security is the main thing around settlement. So what does security mean? Again, this is not the common definition of security. This is the CS definition. Security means that there's one single history of the chain. Everybody globally agrees, and there's no dispute about that anymore. And finalized transactions don't revert. They don't get replaced. That's actually a little bit of a subtle statement to say. In reality, it's not like there's nobody putting a gun to everybody in the world's head and saying, this is the final block on Ethereum. It's something that kind of builds to a finality crypto economic security. And there's a great paper written by the founders of Eigen, which covers profit from corruption versus cost of corruption. And it's kind of elegant that as long as the profit from corruption is less than the cost, then there's no incentive to actually revert transactions, and that's what the security really means. So there's going to be three categories of it: financial, moving assets around; tech, which is actually providing services that complete and update the system. They're not money moving around, but they're actually data moving around and computations on that data that are moving around, and we have to settle them. And then social. A lot of people have kind of moved away from thinking about social as much, but humans do arbitrate chains. We do have forks sometimes. ETH Classic, ETH TH, Bitcoin has gone through forks. These are meaningful things, and I would actually argue they underpin the decentralized trust that makes blockchains blockchain. So just speeding it up a little bit, financial settlement is both regular monetary assets, plus, of course, NFTs. I'm not talking about JPEGs here. Of course, those fit in too. But identity, reputation, and data are the lifeblood of applications. And then tech settlement is a whole bunch of computation, networking, co-processors. And social settlement has two flavors. On-chain, that's DAOs, that's governance, that's voting. And off-chain, very important to point out, that's L1 forks. And EigenLayer has introduced a new class of off-chain forking, which is really important here, which is you can actually get the cost of corruption to be based on tokens that fork and slash without forking Ethereum. It's actually a very beautiful result, and it allows you to do a new class of crypto economic games that are off-chain but don't actually require the nuclear option of reverting, which of course we know is entirely not possible to do anymore. And so that is a unique differentiation, and there's a lot of great stuff that comes out of that. And just thinking about it, these are basically settlements aren't assets. The second one actually gives you a verifiable cloud. I'm going to go through that a bit more. And social settlement is the ultimate backstop. I mean, you can always centralize. People try to take control, make profits. But as long as you have the ability to fork on-chain, which is weaker, and then off-chain, which is unstoppable, then you're able to actually prevent having yourself locked into a system where you're not able to get your assets and your data out of it. Basically, you're not able to be sovereign unless you have the social settlement layer. So hardware tech stack, I'm just going to run through this quick. I think a lot of people have seen this. I will highlight at the very top, you can actually see applications and data. These two are, in fact, separate layers. And so it is important that the data has this sort of ability to take it with you, that you're sovereign over it. So, the hardware tech stack, of course, has been massively changed over the last 20 years with the cloud taking over. Infrastructure as a service is DPIN. It's the lower levels close to hardware. Platform as a service is software that serves other software, middleware. And then software as a service is end user facing. All of these need to be verifiable and autonomous to have this verifiable cloud. And so there's a couple types of verifiability we have in blockchain. We have, of course, redundant execution, the granddaddy. We have ZK, hot new kid on the block, very beautiful, a little bit higher performance overhead right now. But I'm very optimistic between software, cryptography improvements, as well as hardware improvements that we're seeing now. We're going to make ZK the standard way that we show validity in the systems of basically all of computer tech. Optimistic fraud proofs are, of course, a more cost-effective way right now. And they will always have a place as well, because sometimes you can actually build up that assurance first. And TEEs, hardware-based trust, I have a mixed bag view on this. I think you can do low levels of trust on it, but really if you want to do high levels, you have to work your way up to those top three. In EigenLayer, the verifiability has two flavors, which are both crypto economic. I just want to highlight the difference. The on-chain verifiable, which we just covered before in the social settlement layers. And then this off-chain verifiable, which is the original L1 forking plus the new invention of EigenLayer, the intersubjective token forking. So EigenLayer actually powers these autonomous verifiable services, which are essentially any kind of software that is a protocol. It could be on-chain smart contracts. It can also be any arbitrary decentralized peer-to-peer network. Once I say that statement, it should go off in your brain that means I cover all of computer science. I cover all possible tech you would ever want to build. And so it's a generalization of blockchain into the entire Web 2 space. So we now have the ability to put decentralized trust on every single application that an open source developer would want to build and deploy. AVSs are autonomous because staking is permissionless. Anyone can operate and run an operator node. We actually have a marketplace that makes it super easy for people to bootstrap, get all operators they need, get all the stake that they need. We give the ability to slash tokens like ETH and actually any ERC20 that anchors back to ETH for on-chain verifiable security. And then we also offer off-chain verifiable security by slashing critical token value off-chain and reflecting it back on Ethereum. About a little over a year ago, we actually put this thing out, which was pretty much empty. We just knew some people were coming. We thought we'd have like a third of these filled out by the end of 2024. In reality, if you see now, I'm just clicking through, every single category is filled with great leaders. Some of them have 2 or 3 great protocols right at the top. And across the space, we're seeing well over 100 and protocols building it. When you think about it, it's happening faster than we expected, but it's not surprising because everything that you want to build in a faster bootstrapped way that's easier to raise money, deploy it, get the customers that you need, of course builders are going to want to build in that kind of space. We've really made like the easy button for building into crypto, and it's even easier for Web 2 developers to come into this space. As a result of that, we actually got a kind of an award last year, fastest growing developer ecosystem in crypto. So we want to continue that momentum, both because, of course, that's good to bring Web 2 into Web 3, but also because this brings everything into Ethereum space. I am, very happy with the kind of maximal decentralization with the asterisks, that you have upgradability and that we're really moving towards a 20, 50-year type protocol for Ethereum L1 that you can really run and depend on that long times. So why do open source builders win? Because everything proprietary eventually takes a short, medium, or long arc to open. I won't go through the slide. I just want to make sure I get through everything here. This is one of the critical slides of the talk, so I will take a little more time on this, and I'll kind of speed through the rest. The next one is. This is just showing that there's a lot of centralization in cloud platforms. $2 trillion revenue. A lot of people don't know there's that much money and revenue in there. Definitely, it's a big goal of Eigenlayer to bring all of that revenue towards all of you who are building, so it's going into your protocols. And across blockchain, instead of just shifting money around and taking BIPs fees on them, Eigenlayer is actually going to be able to bring this revenue into the Ethereum space of software that settles back to it. So we're going to have a massive, real use case traction for crypto and for all of the technology that currently builds the web. So just really quick, I love giving people this explanation of what's happened with open source over the long arc. The pre-cloud vision is that you built software, you had an open core, then you had sort of software that you sold on top that had extra security, extra reliability, extra performance. And you ran it in private data centers, and people built apps on it, or you had your own app. That's what it meant. During the public cloud era, there was like a luring thing, the siren call of public clouds. So this switched things up a little bit. The open source core now had a fork that went to the open source creator team, and the open source creator team deployed into the Web 2 public clouds, and then the apps were built on that. And there was value from the open source core, and the creator teams put value back in by building code, maintaining it, improving it. But a new fork appeared, and that was the Web 2 Cloud's vendor SaaS. So those guys have started at large taking all successful open source core projects, wrapping it up in their own SaaS protocol, and basically competing against the creator team SaaS. And I draw the arrows here, which are not that wrong here, which is a lot less value is put in by the public clouds. And in fact, they take the majority of the value, I would argue, out of the open source core. So forked value capture, and it makes open source creators fight Web 2 clouds. Here's a critical point. In the crypto cloud, DPIN and the lower layers, all the layers of the cloud, are run by a whole slew of protocols that are making money in crypto. They give a lot better strength, and they also prevent you from having the capture that you had in public clouds. In fact, now that actually has been reverted. Open source software builders are in the driver's seat, and the infrastructure is not going to compete with them. It doesn't have that same kind of capture effect. So crypto monetized open source is a much better model to be building with. So it's better for fundraising, quicker, it's better for building. You've got de-risk platforms that aren't going to capture your value. You get global gardens, and you get Web3 network effects that are available immediately versus having to build them yourself. Better for outcome, more ways to monetize, more ways to capture value and exit into decentralized markets. Consumers win because there's privacy by default. You get to bring your data and your work with you, and you keep your hard-earned reputation, and you get better permissionless algorithms. You're not stuck with what is profit-focused for the vendors. Competition breeds excellence. Probably one of the biggest things is that you don't end up a monopoly stagnating and doing competition rather than building new features and improvements. Competition innovates, monopolies stagnate. That is probably one of the big takeaways from this. You want to definitely work where things are happening. So this, just now we're in references, valuable thinking behind this. I'll be publishing these slides on Twitter. So feel free to go ahead and grab those and then follow the links to read more. Here's also some reading on the subject from us. my Twitter handle, so you can scan that and follow up with the thread. Plus, feel free to DM me. My Telegram is the exact same handle as well. Thank you very much. Find us this week in all sorts of places, and look forward to talking with people. Okay, thank you.